Welcome to the Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. Over 100 employees are suing a Texas hospital for forcing them to take the vaccine. What's the hospital's motive? Radical gender identity propaganda is eroding our young generation. Teachers and schools are starting to fight back. It's now startlingly clear that Windham election officials knew ballot folds would cause machines to malfunction months ahead of the election. Texas was supposed to pass its milestone election integrity bill on Sunday night. However, there was unexpected drama in the last 2 hours before the deadline. Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. Joe Biden unveiled his $6 trillion budget proposal for 2022 last Friday. Among its sweeping spending plans, the proposal notably excludes one measure Biden supported as a senator: the Hyde Amendment. The Hyde Amendment is a law that has blocked federal funding for abortions with certain exceptions for decades. The amendment took effect in 1980. Prior to that, an estimated 300,000 abortions were performed each year using federal taxpayers' funds. Since the measure serves as a rider to the annual budget bill and is not a permanent law, it must be renewed by Congress each year. This gives lawmakers the opportunity to modify its language or abandon it entirely. It's noteworthy that Biden repeatedly voted to reauthorize the amendment during his time in the Senate. However, he reversed course in 2019 when he started his presidential campaign. The exclusion immediately prompted criticism from pro-life groups. Marjorie Denensfelser, president of pro-life group Susan B. Anthony List, stated, "For more than 4 decades, the Hyde family of pro-life policies has kept itself saving nearly 2.5 million lives. The Biden budget throws that long-standing bipartisan consensus out the window to fulfill a campaign promise to the radical abortion lobby." Tom McCloskey, president of March for Life Action, said Biden's stance on abortion is against the majority of Americans' will. He said the Biden-Harris budget is radically out of touch with the American people on the issue of taxpayer support for abortion. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy didn't hold back his criticism either. McCarthy said the new budget breaks with decades of settled precedent by calling for direct taxpayer-funded abortion. While abortion is legal in the United States, who pays for it is another matter. With the current pro-abortion administration in power, red states are passing a flurry of abortion restrictions, including banning the practice under certain conditions and prohibiting public money to cover the cost. A hospital in Texas is being sued by over 100 of its employees for telling them their continued employment depends on whether they receive a COVID-19 vaccine. Houston Methodist Hospital gave employees until June 7th to get vaccinated or risk suspension and termination. 117 employees argued in court saying the vaccine is experimental and they don't want to be the guinea pigs. The lawsuit states, for the first time in the history of the United States, an employer is forcing an employee to participate in experimental vaccine trials as a condition for continued employment. David Bernard, CEO of a Houston Methodist branch, allegedly told an employee that, quote, 100% vaccination is more important than your individual freedom. Every one of you is replaceable. If you don't like what you are doing, you can leave and we will replace your spot. Bob Nevins was an employee at Houston Methodist. On April 1st, he was given 2 weeks to get the vaccine. He did not, and 2 weeks later, Nevins was put on unpaid suspension. Then on April 29th, Nevins was fired. The lawsuit attorney Jared Woodfill claims the hospital is trying to vaccinate employees in a bid to boost profits at the expense of healthcare providers and their employees' health. Houston Methodist has been sending out marketing materials stating all their employees have been vaccinated and encouraging people to switch to them for health care. The attorney said the hospital's practice is a severe and blatant violation of both Texas law and the Nuremberg Code, which set research ethic principles relating to the human experimentation. To be clear, the FDA hasn't fully approved and licensed the COVID-19 vaccine. The authorization is only for emergency use. In Virginia, an elementary school teacher in Loudoun County was put on leave after he objected to his school's district's proposed policy about pronouns. Byron Cross teaches physical education at Leesburg's elementary school. A new proposed rule requires teachers and staff to address students by their preferred gender identity pronouns, regardless of students' biological sex. At a school board meeting on May 25th, Cross made it clear that he will not affirm that a biological boy can be a girl and vice versa, for it violates his Christian beliefs. What immediately followed was the school announcing Cross is on leave in an email sent to parents. Cross said,
"It's not my intention to hurt anyone, but there are certain truths that we must face when ready. We condemn school policies like 80-40 and 80-35 because it will damage children, defile the holy image of God. I love all of my students, but I will never lie to them regardless of the consequences."
Children should be taught to respect and appreciate their body and gender assigned at birth. A person's will doesn't change the biological assignment. Even so-called transgender surgery cannot alter one's biological sex. Just 10 years ago, who would buy the idea that one determines his or her own biological sex? Gender identity is far-left propaganda that's eroding American children. The country needs more teachers like Byron Cross to stand up and protect the students. In Missouri, a Christian college is ready to fight back. The College of the Ozarks is taking the Biden administration to court over a directive that mandates the college to end its single-sex dorms and bathrooms. A Biden executive order in January requires colleges to open up single-sex dorms and restrooms to people of the opposite sex, depending on their preferred gender identity. The lawsuit states, defendants have targeted the college's religious beliefs and practices and shown hostility towards them. The Biden administration's directive violates its religious right to practice and enforce its belief about sexuality. The Christian college has every right to sue the Biden administration. This is another example of attacks on religious freedom from a radical political body. It's even more dangerous and misleading to the American public when some politicians declare themselves as devout Catholics or Christians. Ryan Bangert from the Alliance Defending Freedom said the college has a code of conduct that requires students to handle themselves in ways that align with biblical teachings about sex. Part of the way the school maintains that tradition is sex-separated dorms. A lot of schools like the College of the Ozarks have historically separated their dormitories based on sex. Bangert said, "What we're talking about is the government forcing religious institutions to violate their religious beliefs under the threat of government sanction. This is not a singular event. This is part of an agenda." The founding of the United States is deeply rooted in Christian values. The First Amendment guarantees freedoms concerning religion. It forbids the government from restricting an individual's religious practices. Cracking down on religious freedom is cracking down on America's founding principles, which will fundamentally change the country. Now, before we continue, if you like our program, please hit that like button and subscribe. It'll force the algorithm to share this video to potentially thousands of people. And today, I have the pleasure of toasting to another amazing eye-opener supporter who's also a member of our live chat family, and he goes by the username A. Gray. Everyone in our live chat family loves him. He always shares his opinion and makes everyone laugh with his sense of humor. I was extremely happy when I received a photo of him enjoying his mug that matters, and it's always great to put a face to a name. So everyone, grab your mugs and allow me to say thank you on behalf of our live chat family to A. Gray. Your support and nightly presence is greatly appreciated. Salute. Now, let's turn to the audits. The New Hampshire audit concluded last week. Auditor Harri Hursti said the investigation of Windham's House race revealed no indication of or machine manipulation. But is it really so? The audit uncovered malfunctioning voting machines when there are fold lines with mail-in ballots that resulted in significant overvotes. In one experimental run, the miscount rate was as high as 72%. What's more problematic? Evidence suggests election officials knew of the problem at least 5 months prior to the election. First, Jeff Silvestro, president of LHS Associates, knew it would happen. LHS Associates supplies voting machines to almost all states in the Northeast. New Hampshire uses AccuVote machines and Dominion Voting Systems owns AccuVote's intellectual property. You can just say Silvestro supplies Dominion voting machines to New Hampshire. On New Hampshire's Secretary of State William Gardner's website are minutes from a May 19, 2020 meeting titled Meeting of the Select Committee on the 2020 Emergency Election Support. All members and participants of the meeting were supposed to be listed at the top, including the likes of the House Election Law Committee Chair, legal counsel to the Secretary of State, the Deputy Secretary of State, Assistant Attorney General, all except one figure, Jeff Silvestro. However, Silvestro's contribution to the meeting is obvious in the body of the minutes, and interestingly, he was referred to as being from AHI Associates. What's AHI? This is such a bizarre typo to make, with 2 out of the 3 letters wrong. According to the minutes, when asked, I quote, "With respect to the use of these machines, do you believe that having an 8.5 by 11-inch manila letter size envelope for people to remit absentee ballots in so as to avoid having them folded is a good use of our money to help those machines work smoothly?" End quote. Silvestro said, quote, "Folded ballots always have a higher possibility of being misread or rejected. The crease can cause shadowing and result in misleading rejection." Silvestro told everyone at the meeting that the November ballots will be larger than the usual letter size, which means the cost of shipping them intact would be high. He said, "I like to see less folded ballots, but I don't think it's possible with what we're trying to accomplish." Silvestro was then asked if there were mechanical reasons that prohibited the ballot from being letter size. He cited technical limitations within the programming software that designs the ballots and the code. However, he also said his company could produce 2-sided ballots of any of the standard paper sizes, which includes letter size. So possibly they could make the ballot letter size to avoid them being folded. Being well informed of the risk, no one at the meeting made any effort not to fold the ballots. Back to the actual audit. Reportedly, Silvestro's Mercedes-Benz was at the audit's parking lot on a daily basis. The LHS president was not only present at the audit, he was a consultant for questions on machine maintenance, training manuals, and passwords. How LHS Associates miraculously transformed from an entity clearly with a conflict of interest under the SB 43 clause to actually a consultant of the audit is incredible. At least the Windham audit confirmed one problem of the voting machines, and the fact how state and local election officials have been partnering with voting machine companies to bypass the scrutiny of forensic audit. This is not the end of the story for New Hampshire. By Saturday night, the audit in Maricopa County, Arizona, had hand-counted 1 million ballots. With the current pace, the audit is expected to finish before the end of June. The Senate is now considering an expansion of the 2020 election audit. Senators are thinking about hiring a California-based nonprofit to analyze ballot images for a 3rd set of numbers to compare with Dominion's tabulation and CyberNinja's hand recount. Ken Bennett, the Senate's liaison, said if the plan is finalized, the Senate would pay $5,000. The rest of the money would be obtained through a grant or private funding. The California firm Citizens Oversight was suggested to the Senate by John Brakey, a Democrat who works for Audit USA and is currently working as Bennett's assistant. The firm uses an audit engine or a set of computers to tabulate the result from each ballot for all contests before comparing the numbers it generates with the official records. The review also produces a discrepancy report. Citizens Oversight founder Ray Lutz said they could basically do a total retabulation of the election. While the hand recount focuses on the presidential race and the U.S. Senate race, Citizens Oversight would be using its technology to audit all the races that were on the ballot. The nonprofit has analyzed ballot images in various counties before, but doesn't appear to have been officially contracted to do so. In one recent case, Lunt's team analyzed ballot images from 3 counties in Florida. Lunt confirmed his team has sent the Senate a cost estimate, but declined to make the figure public. The total cost of the current audit efforts hasn't been disclosed either. The Arizona Senate is paying $150,000. Private funding, including from pro-Trump groups, is covering the rest of the cost. On Sunday evening, Democrats in the Texas House kept the election reform bill from passing by walking out before the midnight deadline. Earlier in the day, Republicans in the Senate passed the sweeping measure SB 7 along party lines after an 8-hour debate. SB 7 imposes a number of election changes that would eliminate drive-through voting, empower partisan poll watchers by allowing them more access inside polling places, expand or enhance at least 16 criminal penalties against election officials for voting law violations, including restricting poll observers and sending vote-by-mail applications to those who didn't request one. The bill was making its way to Governor Greg Abbott's desk. However, at 10:35 p.m., Democrat lawmaker Chris Turner sent a text message to party colleagues that read, "Member, take your key and leave the chamber discreetly. Democrats began leaving the floor in greater and greater numbers, denying Republicans the legal minimum necessary for a vote. Turner shot another message: do not go to the gallery, leave the building. While the dramatic last-minute protest did win Democrats more time, it's not expected to last long. Governor Abbott tweeted late last night saying he plans to call a special session to vote on the bill. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick also supports a special session. The bill was introduced by Republican legislators following former President Trump's loss to Joe Biden. If passed, Texas will become the fourth state to sign an election reform bill after the controversial 2020 presidential election. And that's it for today, my friends. Check out this playlist right here for more eye-opening content. You can join me on the Eye Opener Telegram chat room and follow me on YouMaker, Gab, and Parler. Don't forget, please sign up to our email list so that we can stay in contact with each other. I'd like to thank you all, and I'll see you next time.